Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Liu. I am a mental fitness coach. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's video where I share with you tips and tools on how to build mental fitness. This week, I'd like to go deeper into the first power of the sage. And if you remember, there are 5 powers of the sage. And the sage is the part of you that is powerful, that is full of love, that if you can access it, you're able to achieve anything and do it while experiencing sustained happiness. And so the first power of the sage is called empathize. And this is the power to empathize with yourself and empathize with others. And when I say empathize, this is another word to use is to be compassionate, to be loving, to be kind. It's about giving yourself and giving others this unconditional love, which is truly, I find it very difficult in most people. And the reason I want to talk more about this is because in my experience working with my clients and even looking at myself, I find this is the power that is the weakest in the majority of the people. And even the author, Shirzad Chamine, of the book Positive Intelligence, which is what we base a lot of the theories on in these videos, he also found that in his work with his clients, and he coaches many really successful people, CEOs and high-level executives in big companies, he also found that the power to empathize with themselves is the weakest in the majority of his clients. And why is that? I have this theory. I think it's because a lot of times with people who are very high achieving, very successful, how they got there is by using their saboteurs. Remember, we said the saboteurs, and there are 10 common saboteurs. These are the forces or the voices in our head that sabotages from doing what we truly want to do, from achieving what we're capable of achieving, but also that sabotages us from feeling as happy, as joyful as we can feel. And so a lot of the very successful and high achieving people, they got to their success by using their saboteurs, such as the judge, which is the master saboteur that judges ourselves, judges others, and judges circumstances and situations. So by judging ourselves as not being good enough and comparing ourselves to others or judging our situation as not being good enough, it gives them that driver to go to do more, to achieve more, so that they can feel better about themselves, right? And then the other saboteur that I see very common in very successful people is this hyper achiever saboteur, because this is the saboteur. If you take the hyper out, there are some amazing strengths, such as, being driven, setting goals and achieving goals, getting really great results. But when you take it to an extreme, this is when you start attaching your self-worth to an achievement. So a lot of successful people, what happens is when they are achieving, they feel good about themselves or they feel happy. But this happiness and the satisfaction is very fleeting. The minute that they finish achieving this goal, then they think about what's next. And then what's next? So it's almost like a dopamine hit that every time they achieve something, they get this rush of happiness. And then the minute they feel like they're not achieving, they're unhappy and they feel unworthy. That's really what it comes down to. So that's why it's so unsustainable. And so to counter all of these saboteur forces, and I'm just giving some example, I believe that all saboteurs have these very destructive powers. And so to counter all these saboteur forces is really, first of all, this empathize power. When you're able to empathize with yourself, which is about giving yourself that unconditional love, loving yourself even when you haven't achieved, or, in other saboteurs like the stickler, even when you're not perfect, even when you make a mistake, even when you don't live up to your own expectation, if you can still love yourself, that truly then puts you in the sage. And I truly believe that this empathize power, especially with ourselves, is the gateway to all the other sage powers. Because when you are not able to empathize with yourself, so if you're judging yourself or you're judging others or judging your situation, you're not in your sage. You're in some kind of a saboteur. And so when that happens, the first thing to do is to empathize with yourself, to be compassionate with yourself, to be kind to yourself. And then once you're able to do that, you're also going to be able to better empathize with others. I do hear a lot of people say, oh, I have much better ability to empathize with others than with myself. Well, I believe that's not truly empathizing with others until you're able to truly empathize with yourself. And when you're able to do this, I believe you can truly solve most of the challenges and problems and conflicts you have in your life. Because most of the time, if you think about all the negative emotions you have or all the unhappiness that you have within yourself or with other people, it starts from the inability with empathizing with yourself. Whether it's a situation that you're in or some kind of a work situation or a conflict with someone else, is somehow if the inability to empathize with yourself or with another person. So if you're able to do this, then I truly believe a lot of problems and challenges in life are going to be solved. At the same time, this is something that will take time, because if your pattern has been beating yourself up, telling yourself you're not good enough, and then getting motivation from that, then doing it a different way, which is this loving, compassionate, kind way, it will take time. And I know some of you might object to say, well, if I am too kind to myself or too compassionate with myself, then I'm not going to be driven, that I will just let myself go, then I, won't be able to achieve anything. And that's just simply not true. Because, and I almost challenge you to give this a try, to just try it out for a week, to truly empathize with yourself. Anytime that you have a tendency of wanting to say something bad to yourself, to say, what's wrong with you, or, stupid you, or, some kind of this kind of a negative self-talk, anytime you do this, I challenge you to stop that and to say, it's okay. I'm just being human. I make mistakes. I'm not going to always be perfect. And so I challenge you to do this and see what happens. So then if you ask, how do I cultivate this power to empathize more with myself? So the first step we've already talked about is really recognizing your emotions. So anytime you feel any type of negative emotion, and the only exception is grief from losing someone. And so we're not going to talk about that here. Maybe I'll have another session to talk about it. But any other negative emotion, whatever it is that you're feeling, whether it's stress, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, hatred, shame, regret, so any disappointment, any of these emotions that you're feeling, first of all, is to recognize that you're feeling them, and then give it a name. There's so much research that shows that even just by naming an emotion, it can already alleviate the strength of that negative emotion. So once you've labeled it or named it as a negative emotion, then if it's negative, then label it as the saboteur. And you don't have to know exactly which saboteur. Usually the judge is somehow being active there, especially when it comes to any emotion for kind of this negative self-talk kind of emotion. So label it as a saboteur. If you know which one it is, great. Even if not, just label it as a saboteur. And then the next step is to do some PQ reps. And remember, what is PQ rep? Is basically anytime you focus your attention on a physical sensation or on the present moment, such as rubbing your fingers together or taking some deep breath, you're basically, and anytime you do it for 10 seconds, it's considered a PQ rep. And basically, when you do that, you calm the part of the brain down where the saboteurs live. And you have an opportunity to shift to your sage. And the first power of the sage is empathize. So when you're able to shift into the sage, that's when you now have the ability to empathize with yourself or with another person. Now, to specifically to improve this empathize power of yourself is I can see there are two ways. One is you can use a childhood photo. So remember we said the sage is our essence. So if it is our essence, we were basically born with it. So you can see this essence in your childhood photo. So I would say find a childhood photo that you really resonate with, that when you look at it, you can see, oh, that's me. That's that's my essence. And really look at that photo, giving yourself that deep empathy, that deep unconditional love, to really feel those essence qualities that you see in the childhood photo, to feel that within yourself. Because whatever quality you see in that photo, that means it's still in you now. You can't lose your essence. It might just be buried with a lot of saboteurs over the many years of surviving in this, challenging world. And so take a look at that childhood photo and really bring those quality in and really see if you can empathize with yourself deeply by doing that. And then if that's not possible, I do have a lot of clients, and this is not uncommon at all, is for you to see a childhood photo and not really be able to connect with it, or, not be able to feel that deep empathy, or, seeing some superficial quality. So that's all very normal. So if you can't do that with your own childhood photo, you can do that with someone else. So perhaps bring to mind a person, a loved one that you have a very easy time empathizing and loving unconditionally. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a close family member, maybe it's a dear friend, or even a pet. Any being that you have a very easy time empathizing with or loving unconditionally, bring that person to mind. Feel that love, feel that empathy for that person or that pet. And then see, once you've done that for long enough, then see if you can shift that feeling for yourself. And so those are just some practices that you can do to cultivate this ability to empathize with yourself. And it always starts with the self. Once you're able to do that more for yourself, then automatically, I guarantee you, you'll be able to do that more for others. And then if you do want to take the concepts that we've been talking about here to a deeper level, I do have an 8-week positive intelligence group course that will allow you to deepen your understanding and all these concepts that we've been talking about, whether it's catching your own saboteurs or doing PQ reps or, strengthening any of these sage powers. So I'm still giving a 50% discount for this month. And so I'll link the link down below. So watch a webinar where I talk about all these concepts in much more detail. And then at the end, you can book a call with me. It's both a coaching call as well as a strategy call for you to say, hey, is this right for me? And then to get some coaching from me on any challenge or goals that you have in your life. So I really want to thank you for joining me. I would love it if you could give me a comment or question and give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any video in the future. And then also I am on Clubhouse. I would love it if you could follow me there, because I am hosting rooms there weekly to talk about positive intelligence. So when you're on there, you'll get a notification when I am on, and it is a much more interactive platform. It is still in beta only for iPhone users, but I heard that it is coming to the public very soon. And so, yeah, go on there. It's on Clubhouse. So I host a room to talk about positive intelligence with some of my colleagues on Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So again, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you found this video helpful. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye. Take care.